Welcome back to the Gas Compression Podcast. Joined for the second time by David Vannostran. He's the president of Ultimate Chemicals in Moore, Oklahoma. And man, glad to have you back on the show, David. Before we hop into what you're up to at Ultimate Chemical, I want to get kind of a background of what you're doing in the industry as a whole. Sort of we talked earlier, and you talked about the short course that's in Oklahoma City, or is it in
Uh,
Norman?
Norman, Oklahoma. Yeah.
In Norman. And you talked about the Eastern Gas Compression Roundtable. So just want to talk a few things, what's going on there, what people in the industry need to know about those classes. We used to go to that and have a vendor booth, and then I think before COVID, it kind of all everything went away. So what's going on at the short course in Norman?
Well, the short course is going to be this next year is going to be our 78th annual short course, and I guess it's stronger than ever now. Like I said, we had a little bit of a dip course. For a couple of years we had to cancel it. For the COVID reasons, and now it's back stronger than ever. We get 20 students from one company, and it's just like I said, it's really grown. We're gonna try to have a couple of more courses this year. But I mean, if you want to go there and, like I said, get some great training, and it's intense training, so it's very compact. It's in a 2-day event, and I would strongly suggest any vendors that want to have a booth there, a table, and so forth, and be able to, get to everyone who's there for training to show them information about their products and services. I would highly recommend it because it's such an intense event, and you really get one-on-one with a very solid group.
Who are the best people to be there? Mechanics, operators, pipeline guys. I mean, who's the best fit to be there for the classes?
Well, there's going to be, like I said, there's a course usually on Caterpillar engines, of course. So you're looking at mechanics for that, of course. Ariel has a compressor class as well. We have, it's just, like I said, it basically the whole compressor package itself. That's what it mainly is oriented for. There's not much on controls, maybe. But I think that would definitely something that would be great for, a controls group to be there, to be able to say, hey, here's our wares, here's how we operate. And it's to, expose these students to basically learn. And there's not just young students just entering either. There's seasoned 20-year veterans that are coming to this class, so they can just really get down and learn some good things.
And then, do you know what the dates are for 2024?
I don't yet. We are trying to negotiate those dates and make sure everything works out. I will announce those, and please follow us out there. I'll give you a link to put on this for the short course out
Okay.
on Facebook and their website as well.
All right. And then the Eastern Gas Compression Roundtable is coming up on May 7th through the 9th. And so you're involved with that. So give us the quick what's going on with that?
That been to that for the last 3 years, and I would say it has been a great experience. Great people, great. There's a great vendor participation. There's some great courses as well, and like I said, very much oriented just the whole compressor package as far as that's concerned. So you're looking at engine kind of classes and for mechanics and so forth, compressor mechanics as well. Just very detailed. And they don't drill down quite as much on some things, but when you're sitting in an hour class, it's good to take some good notes because you're
Mhm.
going to be learning a lot.
So you can guarantee that if compression companies are sending their folks there, they're going to come away and learn
Oh
something.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely, definitely. I learn something I try to learn something every day, but it's I've learned quite a lot. Let's put it that way.
That's awesome. Well, to all our folks listening out there that have that opportunity to send employees, it's just such a good thing for the industry as a whole to participate in these types of things because there's just lots of information to learn and talking with vendors and just kind of what's going on. So I'm going to try to be out there on the 7th for that.
That'd be great. And anyone has any questions about, contacts or anything like that, call me directly. I'll send you what you need.
Cool. Well, all right. So, Ultimate Chemical, you have had a promotion. You were the VP of Sales, VP of Operations, and now you're El Presidente. So, as of 2023, you're leading the charge, huh?
I guess you could say that. It's more or less more phone calls, more emails, more, yeah, you know what I mean? It's a little more than I expected, but loving every minute of it. Like I said, we actually don't have anybody strictly for sales. It's kind of a little different because before COVID hit, when COVID hit, it basically you couldn't go see anybody, knock on a door, anything, set any appointments, and so it changed a lot of things. And so what I did is I come from many years in a computer background, IT, and decided, well, it's time. So do something that nobody else has done, and so let's put together an online store. So as a matter of fact, we were the first ones to actually put on the full online store in this business, and we're still the only ones that have all of our products available online for sale.
So, your business model's changed a little bit because previously, companies that you worked for, you would go out and do the flushes and test and all that. Now you're sort of kind of changing it to, hey, just buy it online. We'll ship it to you. You can do it yourself. Is that kind of how?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and during the development of some of these products, we want to make we have to go out there and do it. It's a show me, don't tell me situation. So we go out and we would do, of course, we still do cooler cleaning, we still do flushes, chemical circulations. A lot of people aren't aware of that, but it's become less because we've shown them how to do it. We show them it works. They see the results. They see the temperatures drop. We always say now, I guess our new kind of little tagline is that we measure our success in degrees. So once they see those temperatures drop and they see how well our stuff works, and it's like, well, you can pay us to come out and do it, or here's the chemical right here. Here's full directions on everything you need, so they can make it happen for themselves.
About how much of your business is going outside on site and doing it yourself versus just shipping the chemicals to customers and they do it themselves?
Well, um, I'd say maybe, gosh, I'd have to really look, but I'd say about 25 to 30% is us, as far as what we do, maybe less than that even. Because we have so many third-party companies that are service-oriented that are now using our chemicals and taking them out there and doing those jobs, and especially in those areas that we just can't get. Yeah, we just
So
can't be everywhere at once.
that's right. So you're doing you got a new thing out there, and I'm curious. Are you the one that came up with the Royal Flush line of products? Did you come up with that name? And is
Yeah.
that because you have are you a card shark when you're not selling chemicals, or how'd
Oh,
you come up with that?
no, no, no. I'm really not a gambler. It's just one of those things where you've got five products now that we've developed over the years, tried and true and tested, that no one else has, to be able to take care of all the contaminations that you would have in a cooling system. And so it's like, well, five things. What do I do with that? What do we call it? And of course, they're flushes, basically, is kind of this, slang term for what they do. So flush, five things for a flush. There you go. There's a royal flush.
Royal Flush. That's awesome. Well, let's kind of dive into that. What's new in the world of coolant and maintenance? Because it's not the most sexy thing that we want to talk about. It doesn't seem like it makes you any money, but man, if it's not right, it costs you a lot of money and a lot of downtime and a lot of heartache. So let's what's new in the coolant world and taking care of
Well,
compressors.
we just had an article that came out in September in Gas Compression Magazine, and Brent Haight come up with the title. He says, "Soap kills." And what it is basically, man, right now today, I guarantee you, somewhere somebody is got some oil and some stuff inside their cooling system, and they are putting Cascade into that system. And that's the last thing you want to do. How can I put it? And of course, if I could show pictures and pictures and all this, but the thing is when you put Cascade or degreaser, simple green, whatever, into Dawn dishwashing soap, you put that into a cooling system, it creates phosphates, and they start to coat everything inside. And of course, if your cooling system's coated all over inside, then you basically don't have that heat transfer that you're trying to get, and it can really clog them up. And I've seen some where they've added so much where it just creates these little phosphate balls. It looks like little soap balls inside there, and it's horrible. But that's our latest product that really completed the all the five, completed the puzzle. So our main, I guess if we start talking about the flushes, the main thing is we're known for mainly the preventive maintenance flush. And the preventive maintenance flush, that's something that if you've got a little oil or you've got a little exhaust that's leaked inside your system, or you have, silicate dropout, it's got some old spent coolant that's starting to stick to everything inside. That's the only product that's really going to clean everything out for you. And and one thing I want to stress is if you're changing coolant types where you've been using red and now you're going to green or a different brand or something, I would definitely highly recommend using our preventive maintenance flush to get rid of all the residue of everything that you've used before you try the new one, especially if you're going between different technologies, as far as your organic or inorganic or ELC type coolants.
Do you see a lot of, I mean, you mentioned the Cascade thing. I mean, does that still happen a lot
Yeah.
today? I mean, people
Well,
just throwing dish soap in there, that's still a common thing.
yes, it is. And yeah, man, I can't stress enough. If anyone has an issue with that, please give me a call. I would love to explain it. I guess the thing is either way, if you do this, it's going to start coating the insides. Or if you have a system that has just not been cleaned out and used like a PMF as needed, when you get those silicate levels up high as well, one of the things that it's going to start to burn, especially um, it just starts to break down the glycols and burn the glycol, and that's when we have our heavy duty flush. And we're the only ones that make this chemical that will actually go in and you run it within the system while it's running with load on it and be able to actually get rid and dissolve that black burn glycol in there. That's our HDF heavy duty flush. And so it goes from where, you got to think of, okay, action reaction type reactionary, maintenance. And, if someone's spending more than 13% of their emergency budget on, um, you know, of their actual maintenance budget on emergencies, they're not planning right, or they're not looking at indicators that they need to, do some preventive maintenance. And I guess at GMRC this year, that one of the big things was they start calling it predictive maintenance, where you really get ahead of the game before you have a catastrophic failure or an outage where you're down and you're not being able to move gas. So that means, how do we tell, what's going on inside of the system? So what we've come up with, we've partnered up with Lab One, and we used to have to get solids out of the system, is what people would have when they had problems and they knew they were going down on temps or something. So we get those solids, send them off to a lab, and it costs around $350 for this test, and it's an XRD analysis and tells us, the chemical composition of what's in there, so we know exactly what to go after. And that's how we've cut our teeth in this industry, and this is our primary industry, of course. So where we, do this and create and test this and come up with these chemicals, then once we've solve that, like I said, we've got now where we've got lab one that can actually take a liquid sample and be able to tell uh, by seeing the liquid sample and the solids, being able to say, okay, here's your new condemning rates as far as how your lab report comes back to you, and let you know ahead of time. Here's what needs to happen. Here, if you run this and you run this, you'll be back to 0 hour. So you may have burnt glycol. Then we have, someone's ran, Cascade in there or something, and you have to run the, phosphate fix, which is basically PO4 fix. And that's our, gets rid of all the phosphates in there as well. So that 1-2 punch, you're back to 0 hour. You've gotten rid of everything that would be coating everything.
So speaking of 0 hour, whenever a new compressor package gets set, is there instructions from the manufacturer on, hey, here's the book on this cooling system, and if you follow this, you won't have any problems. Here's how many after this many hours, after this many months, this is what you need to test, this is what you need to go after. So start, if you could write that book, or if you could hand that to somebody, what does that look like?
Well, I'm writing a book actually on this.
Oh,
It's been the most neglected subsystem out there. I've got a good friend of mine, Curtis Royce, who's really changing the
mhm.
world as far as lube oil systems.
Yeah,
And then like I said, someone had to take up the mantle and say, okay, who knows more about the cooling systems? Well, I don't know everything, but it takes a village.
right.
So I'm working with all of the greatest minds in this business, people with 20, 30, 40 years of experience in the business, getting case scenarios from them, working with Lab One, of course, working with the companies themselves as far as the manufacturers. Because if you look at, not going to name names, but you look at some of the manufacturers and you look at the OEM manuals, there might be 2, 3, 4, 5 pages on the cooling system, and that's about it. So as far as actually troubleshooting it and maintaining and having that preventive maintenance, that's what we're looking for to uh, you know get that out in the hands of mechanics, because we've had COVID hit, and we've had a lot of people just said, hey, I'm going to hang it up, I'm going to retire. So there's this loss as far as passing the torch to that next generation of mechanics, as far as mentoring and teaching them and learning on the job, that kind of thing. So it's a good friend of mine said, hey, you need to write this book. You guys are doing more to fix these things than anyone else, and you're the only ones. It's it. So it's not just coming up with the right chemical solution. It's coming up with okay, here's how to prevent this and get ahead of it. And it's helped us with the mindset of not just saying, oh, sure, we'll sit back and watch these systems crash and so on. Then we get a call, okay, here's what you need to fix it. We actually say now, with like GMRC saying we need to start going to quarterly testing on coolant samples. Well, they started off, saying the monthly samples on oil samples, and that was a hard sell for a lot of companies, but they're doing it now, the majority. And so now it's like, if you'll actually do like quarterly samples on your units and do this for your fleet, you'll actually be able to see, okay, hey, my rust level is rising. So with that said, it's like now you have something that you can drain your coolant out, put our rust removal flush, RRF, in there, and be able to completely eradicate the rust in your system. And, you're back to 0 hour there, if you've had rust. And you're talking about commissioning new units. I've got several people that have used our rust removal flush on new units because of all the flash rust inside. Well, that's not really 0 hour, is it? Because they've been sitting in a yard, waiting to be commissioned out somewhere. So they'll run our rust removal flush, and all it takes is a couple of hours at temp, so that when they do their initial startup, if they'll put our rust removal flush in there and let it actually be up to temp where the thermostats are open for 2 hours, it'll eradicate any of that rust, rinse it out. You have a 0 hour system for sure.
So I'm just, what would be the cost of that? When you're thinking about setting new units and you're weighing the cost, like what does it cost to run the rust, the RRF, the rust removal flush through in a brand new
Well,
unit to get started?
well, here's what's cool. We have an online store now. So if you go out there and you look at our store and you pull up our rust removal flush, it's actually going to, we have it in different quantities. We, sell it in, buckets and drums and totes. So a 250 gallon tote runs you $3,000. And, say, so you basically, it's going to fill it up. It's ready to use for that flush. So you can buy the quantities you need to fill up a 300 gallon system or 600 or 1200. And we've done some huge, common repository type systems as well that it
Yeah.
just running, really hard water with their mix. So, and uh, that's pretty much covers it. The only other thing we have, I guess, the fifth one is going to be our oil contamination flush. And that's when, you have lose an oil cooler and your coolant looks like your oil and your oil looks like your coolant. It's kind of this foamy, nasty stuff. That's definitely where fix your leak and so forth and be able to run this through your cooling system and it'll get rid. I don't care if you put a 50 gallons of oil inside of a cooling system. Our oil contamination flush will get rid of all that oil inside your system.
So can you give us kind of a high level view of the maintenance that you'd be writing about in your book? You mentioned that the GMRC has now come out and said quarterly testing. Do you agree with that? Do you think it ought to be monthly? Where
Oh,
do, and where do people get those? Do people buy? Where do you get the kit to test it with? Is that from you? Is that from where do people get that kit?
so we actually have it online, and it's Lab One that performs the test analysis. So we have a kit online. You can buy them in multiple quantities. We've had guys buy them. I've got 6 units that he's over, or he's got 25. If you've got 100, whatever, and that way you have all the different quantities to buy them there. Um, and like I said, it's $35 a kit, and it's a little high than the free kit, the free test you might even get from someone who sells you the coolant. But this way, you know that you've got the right test that's equal to what we've done with the solids, and we'll give you the give us the information that we would need to be able to go out there and do the flush ourselves. Like I said, we've done these flushes. That's how we started this to show everybody what we needed, and now we can just get this, like I said, with a coolant sample. And when they take the sample, the best thing would be to, get it at the lowest point that you can around the engine block, get about a third of it maybe over around the water pump area, somewhere in there. And then also go up to the surge tank and get something out of there as well. This way it will show, a real indicative, sample of, what's in the system entirely. And once they've done that, they send it in within 24, 48 hours. Lab One's going to send you an email. Here you go. Here's your, test results. I get a copy of the test results. So that way, if you want to talk it over, we can talk. And after the first page, it's also going to tell you, here's the condemning limits. Are you in the green, the yellow, or the red? And here's what you would need to run to get that back to 0 hour.
Hmm. Do you guys ever have to make up or formulate special chemical compounds based on what a lab reading says, or will all five of your Royal Flush products, will those take care of everything? Or do you ever run into an instance where, whoa, you got a lab result back that just was way different than normal and you have to make something new?
Well, over many, many years of doing this and testing and going out doing it ourselves, we've got all five that we need for cooling systems. There would have to be something brand new out there, or somebody made a mistake and said, oh, for some reason we put hydraulic fluid in our cooling system somehow. Yeah, and then we'd have to kind of say, okay, let's see what's going to go after that. But we've got it all covered. It's uh, one cool thing to mention also. Say we've got a system that had the phosphates in it, right? The neat thing about the phosphate fix is when they run that, the added bonus that we didn't really count on, some things are a blessing. Let me tell you. That one you run for 4 hours at temp. And the cool thing is it gets rid of the rust also. So if you still had some of that rust and you're running the phosphate fix, it'll get rid of both.
Hmm.
Yeah, so it's an added value.
Do you see, I'm just curious if you see different issues popping up in different parts of the world with different types of gas, right? So, in the Permian Basin or in Louisiana or in Pennsylvania or in Oklahoma, do you see common themes of issues that pop up?
Well, in the gas itself,
I mean,
you
with the
know,
cooling systems.
I would say no. I mean, not too much. I mean,
No.
the only things we see is like within the compressor itself, as far as helping keep the valves clean and things like that for some injections we have. So we don't really in the cooling systems, I don't see any differences. Sorry.
No
So
worries.
there's a you know we do see different in different areas, super hot areas. We see some guys that will run a different kind of blend than a 50/50. And I'm just here to say that the way things are designed is to run that 50/50 blend, through the cold months. And some people will say, well, we'll run a 25, 75, 75%, water, and they're running crappy water somewhere. And they have 25% ethylene glycol in there. And that's because they're in warmer weather. They don't anticipate much of a freeze or anything like this. Now, if you go into um, here's a good scenario for you that we've worked on, and we'll be releasing this after the first year. We have something, where you have coolant. We're talking about coolant is more like an antifreeze, okay? And it winterizes your system as far as to keep, your temperatures where, it gets below freezing. It won't freeze your coolant. Now, during the summer, there's not a lot of added benefit as far as having glycol, in the system. So the thing that we propose and that we've tested for 2.5 years now, it's going to be about three this spring, is running this thing that we're calling Cool Ain't. Summarize. So that means, well, let's see, we've got an engine that say it's a 10 million cubic foot engine or compressor. And what they're having to do is during the summertime, it gets so hot, they're having to take off load off that system. And that means they're, instead of 10 million cubic foot, they may be running 6 million cubic foot. And our thing is, why don't you throttle up through the summer? How can we do that? Well, real easy. You're not going to need the freeze protection during the summer, especially, West Texas or, New Mexico. So what they do is they say, okay, let's take out this good, should have a clean system, we're hoping, right? And they take out this coolant that can be used for 2 years and they pull it out during the summertime for 6 months. And they say, okay, now let's put this coolant in there. Summarize, right? And that way it's summarized where there's no glycol in this. It's sort of like how if you have a racing engine, like the Street Outlaws here in Oklahoma, right?
Mhm.
Uh, where they put this stuff in there. There's no glycol in it. They're not running these engines in freezing weather, but they're putting racing quality, type coolant to keep it cool, especially under, extreme circumstances and heat. Well, those things are way expensive, $24 a half gallon or something. And we're like, well, we sell that for $8 a gallon. So that means just imagine $8 a gallon. Let's figure, you know, what size cooling system. But you're looking at, say the midstream company's making, $6 for 1,000 cubic feet, and that's their transmission fee, and they're looking to, not take those loads off. They got 100 systems out here, and they're having to pull load off of those, and throttle down during the summer, so they won't overheat. Now they can actually put this stuff in there and throttle up. Just think how much more gas they're going to move.
Have
So
you
you
ha do
just
you
say,
do you have some documented case studies of this where you've done this?
you know, here's the thing. I'm working on it because the guys that have tried it are like, hey, this is great. This is wonderful. Let's get some more. as far as getting someone who's out in the field fighting fires and doing everything that they do in a midstream company to say, oh yeah, let me sit down and take my time and write out some data for you.
Right.
Plus, it's a lot of companies don't want to, go on the record to say, yeah, we use this or we use that. A lot of companies, even within one company, they can be like their own tower, and they say, well, we use this, and I don't know what he's doing. I don't know what he's doing, but hell, I'm moving more gas, and so he looks better. Maybe the manager in that area or something.
Mm. Yeah.
We run into that, especially with the oil, rigs. Is we've done how many flushes for one company during this year, and they just seen such a tremendous change where they're not having to replace, generator sets because they've actually got everything cleaned out now, and they're keeping their coolers clean. So it's spread through the company. And anybody has any questions about it, there's going to be an article coming out, I'm sure, February, March, something like that. I'm hoping to talk about it, but it's cooling summarized, and that will actually let you put that load on there during the summer and not overheat as much. We've got a guy that the systems weren't clean. Two systems, he put it on in his area and dropped it 20 degrees. So he's able to throttle up and put more load on and, actually move the amount of gas he's supposed to. So
So
that's money.
when's the Cool Aints Summarize come out for sale?
We're going to have it on the store as of February 1st.
Okay.
So that'll be official. And if someone wants to, that's not in an area that's freezing and so forth, get with us, and get with me, and we'll talk about it. Um, we come up with another product for cold weather. A lot of guys do a lot of top ends and so on and maintenance during the wintertime. So we had to take our PM flush, and we have a cold weather PM flush. It's just a sub, of the PMF. So that was where they could actually mix it instead of mixing our flush 1-to-1 with water, it comes, where it's condensed. They dilute it 1-to-1, and with water is normally how it works. Somebody said, hey, we need to run this stuff, but we can't get access to good water. So we have another flavor that we've come up with, formulated to where you mix that our flush with one part our flush, PMF flush, to one part coolant mix that they already have in the system. And what it does is that way they don't have to have water on site, and they can run this and it'll clean their system out.
Hmm.
So works fantastic. And here's what's funny is the guys that mainly use it are in the super hot areas where they just don't have access to water. We made
Yeah.
it for, out in, Colorado and all the, kind of more northern areas to where they could run it with their coolant mix, and it will keep it from freezing if it had to shut down. Because some smaller units, they may not have monitoring on those units. So this way, if the unit happened to go down, for whatever reason, it's not going to freeze and bust anything. So, number one, do no harm. And so that's kind of interesting. We've got from one extreme to another now. We're summertime, and well, here's what to run instead of your, glycol mix that'll actually drop it, anywhere from 10, 20 degrees, maybe more. It just depends on how clean your system is to begin with.
Yeah. Well, before we wrap up, I'd love to know any other, you mentioned don't put dishwashing soap in a cooling system. Are there any other 2 or 3 things that you see common out in the field that are common that you would say, hey, mechanics, operators, don't do this. Just I know what you may have heard, or this has been what everyone's been doing for 20 years, but stop doing this.
Right. Well, number one, of course, the soap, that has no place in the cooling system. And as far as oil and rejecting this stuff, yeah, it's we're talking about different kinds of oils like animal fats and so forth that it's created for, and those phosphates. Um, and I strongly recommend, like you said, running a 50-50 coolant mix on anything that you do. If it's not working right for you, you have another problem to look at. And also, I would say, the quarterly testing is just a great way to be able to say, here's a check engine light for rust. Here's a check engine light for just had one test where, it shows extreme high lead levels. Well, he's getting ready to lose a bearing. That's a great trouble light to be able to see ahead of time before, all of a sudden everything goes haywire. Also to see if you've got, oil in the system, so forth. Or, hey, this, whatever, for whatever reason, they've got a lot of, silicon. And really the silicon is going to show you the silica dropout that, this coolant's spent. It's time to replace it, time to clean it out before we put another coolant mix in there. So and just think like catching it early also to be able to say, oh, this one has burnt glycol. And instead of having to go through like we normally do by the time they have solids or their sight glass is black, it's like now they can catch it ahead of time and say, oh, well, now we can run one series of this heavy duty flush instead of having to run through twice like we normally do.
Yeah.
So it's just catching things ahead of time, being proactive, being predictive about it, and having those new check engine lights is how I look at it. And it's actually going to save our customers money rather than waiting till the very last moment where it's like, this thing's gone down. We're in an emergency. We've got to do this now. We don't have time to run a test. Run the test ahead of time.
Yeah.
And that way, we know where it's headed. We can trend it, every quarter, it's getting to a point we're going to have to do something.
Well, David, appreciate you coming on, and thank you for all that you're doing for the industry, and got some exciting things coming up, right? The Cool Ain't coming out February 1st, and then there's a book in the works. So I know I'm not going to pin you down on a date. I know some folks that have attempted writing books, and giving a date is just it's just a waste of time because it just takes a long time.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's all about getting the right information out into the hands of people that desperately need it. I mean, like I said, it's to help with passing that torch to be able to help enable these mechanics that haven't had that one-on-one mentorship with somebody who's left the business.
Yeah.
All that experience has kind of left the village here. So I just think it's going to be very handy, and it's not going to be like the end all be all, Bible as far as cooling systems, but it's pulling from every resource that I'm able and everyone that will work with me to be able to put it all in one place at least and have references where you can go dig deeper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you can check out Ultimate Chemical at ultimatechemicals.com, or you can find Dave on LinkedIn. He's very active and sharing information and doing good for our industry. So thanks for coming on, Dave, and hope to see you soon, and maybe at the Eastern Gas Compression Roundtable in May.
That'd be awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks.